I can't barbecue at all in my grill.
Yeah. It's a grill.
Because it's a grill.
You can.
It doesn't really work like that.
It's really hard. You have to set up indirect. I've done it. It's really hard.
All right. This has been Barbecuing with CJ and Jeff. I hope you've enjoyed our new show.
I am going to start, true story, I'm going to start an OnlyFans page. We're trying to come up with a name for it.
Only what?
An OnlyFans page. You know the OnlyFans?
With barbecue?
Yeah. I want to have a camera just on my grill the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's just me grilling meats.
$10 if you put the salt on it.
Well, I think I got that actually that'd be really funny. So I was like, oh, we need a name for it. And I was like, obvious name is Little Meats. And one of my friends was like, no, you got to call it Meat Love.
Meat Love.
Meat Love.
Oh, yeah.
Meat Love is the best name I've got so far. Meat Love, OnlyFans / Meat Love.
I don't think you're going to improve on that.
Well, I'm guessing it's going to be like Meat Love 08. I'm guessing there's another 7 Meat Loves already there.
Quiet, please.
Yes, but they're not showing what you're showing.
Just like get people to throw a couple bucks
to look at grilling?
Just to watch grilling.
How much of the time of your month will you spend grilling?
I mean, depends how many fans I get. I'll grill every goddamn day. Get enough fans. Hey, what are you making today? Today we're going to do salmon.
And you'll do that kind of ASMR voice when you do it?
Totally. Oh, I see. User UG126 wants me to use curry powder. just that.
Actually, I like that he has numbers in his name. That makes him like all the more sinister that he has numbers at the end of his name.
Not everybody can be named Shithead Steve.
Well, there's only one.
There's only one.
Yeah, sure.
Until you get to 2 and
4,
08 or underscore.
3, 2.
The Apple Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense, episode number 30. I'm Jeff Parker.
And I'm Steve Little.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at the letter X, because we've apparently turned into Sesame Street.
Yep.
Then we'll discuss the cables that run under the sea.
Under the sea.
It's Cross-Atlantic Communications Day, commemorating the invention of the transatlantic communication telegraph cables.
Which is kind of a big deal, right? You had to like string a cable from one country to another.
In 1866, a telegraph cable was erected across the Atlantic Ocean to connect Europe and North America. It took a total of 12 years to finish the project. It began in 1854 and was completed on July 27, 1866. The project necessitated many ships, trials, failures, and a large sum of money to lay the cables.
Interesting to use the word erected. You would think since it was pulled. Pulled would be the better verb.
I mean, maybe the word is installed.
Installed? I like installed.
They installed.
Sure. They installed the cable.
It took them 12 years because the installer kept saying, we'll be there between 3 and 5 p.m. and they never showed up.
Oh my God, that's absolutely what it was.
That's why it took 12 years. Now we know.
This cable, we'll be there July 26th, sometime between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. Meanwhile, there's some dude in a top hat just waiting for hours.
Just laughing.
Yeah, Cable Town.
It's also National Creme Brulee Day. Do you like creme brulee?
I love creme brulee.
Oh, I love creme. Do you have a torch?
I do.
And do you make it? How many? You have what? Multiple torches?
Of course.
So everybody could make their own, sitting around it.
No,
that could be like a do-it-yourself project.
Torches for different things.
Do you have different levels of flame? Why do you have different torches?
Well, I also have a searsol. Do you know what a searsol is?
I know what a sawzall is.
It's like a sawzall, but cooler.
What's a searsol? It sears everything.
It's basically a hood you put over your MAP gas or your propane torch. It's got a screen on it, and the screen gets super hot, and then you get nice radiant heat.
And your creme brulee comes out perfect.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I use it for meats too.
It's also Shark Week. Congratulations, it's Shark Week.
I didn't think it would get here fast enough. I have literally no idea when it happens.
It's always after the Tour de France ends.
Which makes no sense.
There are more than 500 species of shark.
That's a lot.
All come in all sizes and shapes.
Okay.
And do they like deep water? Do they like shallow water? What do they like?
Creme brulee.
You know how long sharks can live?
10
the
minutes.
answer is a very long time. Greenland sharks that can live at least 400 years.
Wow.
That's a good life.
They're basically like an ice up there, right? So they're just like in a state of hibernation the entire time. They're the Walt Disney of sharks.
They're frozen.
Just frozen.
Sharks are older than dinosaurs and trees.
And some rocks.
90 million years before trees and 190 million years before dinosaurs.
That's crazy to be older than trees.
Sharks have survived 5 mass extinctions.
That's amazing.
One of which wiped out 96% of all marine life. Shark pregnancies can last longer than 3 years.
Oh,
That's partially why sharks probably are so grumpy.
Imagine a 3-year pregnancy.
3 years of waking up in the morning nauseous.
Just 3 years of me going to McDonald's at 4 a.m. to get French fries.
Sharks do not vocalize. They are silent creatures, and they don't have any organs for producing sound. But they can sense electricity.
I've heard that before. That's amazing to me.
It's why they go down and chew on those submarine cables, the cables that run.
That's why Shark Week coincides with Cross-Atlantic Communication Day.
And if you knew, and if you knew how much power was even going through the fiber optic cables, you'd say, wow, it wouldn't take a shark or anything that sensitive to sense it, because it's a ton of power they're putting through.
There's power going through fiber optic cables?
Oh boy. I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you, we're going to talk about cables later.
Gotcha.
How's your week going?
Good. I decided to have a barbecue, invite a bunch of people over.
Okay.
Made like 20 pounds of ribs.
I know you like to barbecue. How many people does 20 pounds of ribs feed?
Apparently not enough, because we were down to less than a rack left after
wow. Well, that's
everyone
perfect.
left. I also had 6 pounds of beef to go with that, tri-tip. So it was a lot of food. And then the veggies, and it was lovely. Everybody had a good time.
What veggies did you grill?
Squash.
Tell
always.
us slower.
Squash.
Okay.
Salt, pepper.
You grill pineapple?
I have.
You're
I didn't
Canadian.
Yeah. I like grilled pineapple.
I do too.
Not on pizza. Don't put pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, I like it on pizza. I'll have it any way I can get it.
Yeah, I'll eat it on pizza, but don't.
I'm a pineapple fan.
A bunch of people showed up, time in the pool, it was hot.
Yeah.
It felt like summertime. It felt like a proper summertime. That's what it felt like. How about you?
I had no week.
No week? Why not?
It all just went by as a giant blur.
That's my week.
I had a work project and it didn't let up, and it still hasn't let up, and so I have absolutely no memory of the last. When was the last time I saw you? 7 days ago, something
About
like
7
that.
days.
Yeah,
We do this once a week.
You'd think I could remember that.
You think by a half a year in, you'd remember it's weekly.
My brain is shot. But I am excited about next week.
Yeah. What's next week?
Next week, you and I are only doing headlines. We're not doing a full-length show.
Yes.
Because who wants to slave over a hot microphone in August? So
the show next week is on Ozempic.
It's a little slimmer. That's true. August 3rd and 17th are both going to be headline only. I was suggesting maybe we take August off.
Yeah.
And you suggested maybe we just do a little,
smaller show.
A headline show, which would be great.
And our fans just said...
They said, why do you do any show?
Exactly.
That's what I kept hearing.
Yeah.
So 2 shorter shows on August 3rd and 17th, and then in between those, we'll have full-length shows.
Yep.
Let's get to our headlines. Twitter has been rebranded as X.
Yes. Fascinating.
I don't know how to respond to this. Why didn't he just start an app and call it X? Why spend $44 billion on something you clearly didn't want?
Well, you bought a user base. The first thing you need to do...
The user base is evaporating fast.
Before you believe the tweet, you want to look for the words The Onion or Babylon Bee. That's always the first thing you want to do.
You would hope that would be the case, but it's not.
No, can you imagine if you're in the writer's room at The Onion, they're like, how the fuck did we not think of this?
Like X?
They just got to be like, this story is not true. There's no way this can be true.
The writer's room at The Onion. Yes, of course.
They've got to be like, there's just truth is stranger than fiction.
Meanwhile, Y has held a press conference and it's saying, why? Why? Z also chimed in and just to add another dimension.
Add another dimension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think X is just a nice way of marking it as dead, like in the cartoons when you have the X's over the eyes. I think we're just getting right to that.
What are we going to call tweeting? What's tweeting on X? Xing?
Non-existent. It's going to be completely gone.
Hey, have you died recently?
Exactly.
Yeah, I died the other day.
Imagine someone going to the App Store trying to find Twitter, and now they can't find it.
Yeah, good luck when you put X into the search term and you find 1,000 other things.
Yeah, and you know what you're going to find, too. Totally. It's going to be more interesting than Twitter.
Yeah, a lot of Bible verses, I presume.
I'm sure that's what it will be.
You know what's shameful? I kind of get it.
Explain it to me. X.com.
I'm not saying it's going to work. I know what the belief for what X.com wants to be, right? It's like the WeChat.
It's like us talk about it. I know what WeChat is. Yeah, I got the idea.
Everyone's always wanted that. I just don't think that's going to work in our culture. I think it's going to be really hard to have a single app.
He's too late.
It's
not even a matter of culture. He's just
not
too
even
late.
sure if it ever, 15 years ago if it would have worked. But the core underlying business is getting eaten up pretty fast.
Yeah.
That to me is a bigger problem.
If you want to bring in, payments and all those sorts of things, you need to keep the main business alive. Yeah. Speaking of X's, FTX lobbyists tried to buy Pacific island of Nauru to create a new super species, a lawsuit says.
These were the guys that literally, when you talk to them, they're like, we have never been for sale, nor are we currently for sale.
Nauru has not. Yes, it's a little island of about 12,000 people, and they've never been for sale.
What happens when you buy an island with 12,000 people on it, by the way? What do you do with the 12,000 people?
You can buy a town. You don't get to move the people. You only buy infrastructure.
Sure.
He wanted to have a place in case the earth came to an end and 99.999% of the people died.
Yeah.
And so people who were sympathetic to his philanthropic causes would create a genetically enhanced human species. By the way, he hadn't worked out how to make them a genetically enhanced human species. He was procuring the land to start with. He needed to start somewhere.
I'm just the idea guy, okay?
Clearly.
Somebody else do all the execution.
This is Gabe Bankman-Fried. He's the younger brother of Sam Bankman.
He's the one that's not on house arrest.
Correct. Yet. He is under house ridicule, I hope.
You know what doesn't sound as good as SBF?
What?
GBF. Gabe Bankman-Fried. It's like where I go to buy bulk spices. Where'd you get all that cumin? I went to GBF.
It's too close to JBF.
JBF? What's JBF?
You don't know the acronym JBF? It's how your hair looks after sex. You've got JBF hair. Just been
fucked.
Yeah, that's it.
Look at that. If it's today, I was this many minutes old. Clearly, as you can see, it's been a while.
Since you've had JBF hair? Yeah. The Fed has a new instant payment system that could be trouble for PayPal and Venmo. Yesterday, the U.S. Federal Reserve officially launched FedNow.
Great name.
A system rolled out to 35 early adopting banks and credit unions for processing instant payments between financial institutions.
Okay, look, glad we're moving into the 2000s.
Yeah,
That's
it seems like this is 20 years late, but
Way to
I'm
jump on the
happy it's
millennium.
here.
Me too.
I didn't even realize they recognized there was a problem. I'm sure it'll work.
FedNow is really the best name we can come up with.
Well, the FedEx was taken. You can't put X on everything.
FedEx would be great. XFed.
XFed.
FedNow, like
You want it like a streaming
minutes?
service? You want it like FedMax? Or
Sure, FedMax?
Fed Plus?
I think FedMax is a place you go when you do something bad.
Sure.
I don't think that's what you want. Fed's not the best.
When you try to buy Nehru.
When you try to buy Nehru, you go to FedMax.
FedMax.
Yeah. SBF will be in FedMax. I feel like we could have done a better name on this, but they didn't call me.
But it perfectly describes what it is. It's a federal version
Sure.
of payments that occur instantly. So FedNow is kind of like saying what it is,
Okay.
like the Wiltern Theater.
Yeah.
I know where it is.
Oh, you do? That's true.
Just by the name. It's the corner of Wilshire
and Western.
It's the Wiltern Theater. And if they ever move it, I will be completely screwed up. Sunset Gower Studios, I know where that is.
Wow. You figured that one out on your own? Or?
Currently, FedNow has a default transaction limit of $100,000. But individual banks can adjust it up to $500,000.
I feel like banks would trade more money than that typically.
They used to have a $100,000 bill so that the central banks could trade, large sums of money. That's gone out of existence.
Yeah, I got rid of all mine.
You never had any. Not that you wouldn't have the money for them, that they wouldn't give them to you unless you were a central bank.
It says must be accepted for all debts, public and private. Give me my fucking gum.
They were my gum. And the change. I want your entire store in change. But no, the $100,000 bill was only for central banks to move
Who was on
money
it?
around. Whose picture was on it?
Yeah, who's facing a $100,000 bill?
Not the $1,000 bill, the $100,000.
No, yeah,
Grover
$1,000
Cleveland, I
bill.
think, was on the 1,000. Right?
Yeah, sure. Grover Cleveland. Who talks
don't
about
know
him? By the way, it looks like it came out of like a Monopoly set. Was Woodrow Wilson?
Nobody got to use it. It could have looked like it was from a Monopoly set. It could have been handwritten. I mean, it was really just to move money across central banks.
Well, they got to use them. SBF used to light his cigarettes with them.
Is that right?
Just take out some. He'd call them Willies. His Woodrow Wilsons.
Right?
He called them Willies. Give me one of those Willies. He'd use them like you'd see him at a restaurant. It's how he'd level out a table. If a table was shaky, he'd just
Put
roll up a
under
Willie.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Woodies. Should you call them Woodies or Willies? Does anybody know what Woodrow went by?
One pill doesn't fix it all. A cholesterol study reveals effects on lung function and brain size. This is about statins. Some discoveries about statins in the British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology. I'm sure you got your copy.
Yeah, I did. I read cover to cover.
Statins significantly lower the risk of cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, age-related disease. But one expected benefit of taking statins that was just found is some people seem to increase the brain volume of the hippocampus, which may reduce the risk of dementia and depression.
Those sound like things I don't want to get.
So statins have lots of good benefits.
What's the downside?
Some types of statins are fairly new, and we really don't know what their long-term effects are.
No, I like to crush mine and smoke them. Is that how you're supposed to do it? It was unclear in the instructions.
I went onto a statin at the advice of my doctor and then quickly went off of the statin at the advice of my doctor when it was starting to hurt my muscles. I was in excruciating pain.
That sounds terrible.
Which only happens to like 1 out of 20 people. And so then what you do is they get you off of the statin.
Yep.
They have to completely test and make sure you haven't damaged your liver. I don't know what they do if you have.
Sure.
There's not much you can do to fix that.
Yeah.
And then they want to test you on, try it again on another statin. Sure. This will be fun.
Just spinning the wheel of statins.
Exactly. You go into the second one a little more trepidatious.
Yeah.
I'm going to have the most pain I've ever had in my life.
Sure.
If this doesn't work, great, let's do it. Bring it on.
The good news is you're on the statin. The bad news is your blood pressure is really high. And you're like, I wonder why that could be.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little stressed out here.
Maybe I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Amazon is getting ready to launch a lot of broadband satellites.
This is kind of cool.
Within a few years, Amazon hopes to be building and launching up to 80 satellites per month to populate the company's Kuiper constellation, a $10 billion network that is similar to fleets already operated by SpaceX and OneWeb, providing internet connectivity around the world from low orbiting satellites.
I'm really fascinated by all this stuff that's going into low orbit. I think it'd be great. I'd love to have a Amazon Prime internet connection that I can take with me anywhere that's not Starlink.
It's a cool idea.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
It's going to be bumper cars up there soon.
That's the thing. Well, not bumper cars. It's going to be exploding cars. Let's
sure.
slam into each other.
And the nice thing is they'll rain down upon us.
Well, they're pretty small, so they're probably going to burn up before they come in.
How small are these satellites? Do you know?
They're pretty small.
Are they coffee can size satellites?
I don't know about the Amazon ones, but the Starlink ones I want to say are like a microwave size.
Yeah.
They're not that big.
They're hoping to deploy half of their 3,236 satellites by July of 2026.
They have to, I think, in order to keep their spectrum.
That's still remarkable. That's an enormous amount of satellites that you're putting into the air. There are already 4,000 of those Starlink satellites in orbit.
The Starlink satellites are a little bigger than I thought.
How big?
So it's 3,000 pounds. That's the size of
That's a car.
By weight, that's a car.
Sergey Brin is coming back to Google to help advance its AI efforts.
Yeah, I heard about this. He's coming in like a couple days a week.
He's helping with hiring. He's doing all sorts
That's where
of...
he's going to be effective. This is the dude that said AI is not the thing.
Correct, but
10 years ago.
he's now, based on all of the research that he paid for, all of the rest of this AI exists.
Totally.
I don't know if you've played much with Bard.
I haven't recently.
It's come a long way fast.
I've heard it's good.
It started out when I first tried it, it was like, oh yeah, this is a nice Me Too. 2-3 months later, it was like, wow, this is amazing. This is really great.
I like to ask it what ChatGPT would tell me just to see if it throws shade. I feel like so.
Okay, enough with the headlines. Up next, CJ is going to talk about the letter X.
Strap in. So Twitter has a new name.
It does?
It does.
This is news to me. This is brand new information.
Do you know what they're calling it? MySpace.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I mean, we can go back a little farther. We can go back to Friendster. Remember Friendster?
Sure, of course.
And Friendster, too, was special, kind of terrible.
I'm not a big social network guy, but I do remember those.
Friendster? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure.
How can you not? Mr. Musk has decided that we should now call Twitter X.
Yeah.
Which has a lot of history behind it, right? Because he owned
He's put
X.com.
X in everything, yes.
Well, he owned X.com.
He's infatuated with the
which
letter
became
X.
PayPal, basically.
Right. Well, no. PayPal was a different thing, but he was working, it merged with PayPal, and yeah.
I mean,
not really, but
let me
yes.
say it lives on in PayPal. How's
Okay.
that? And then I believe he bought the name back from PayPal like in the mid-teens.
X.com. He bought the URL. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, not a bad URL.
It now redirects to Twitter. If you go to X.com right now, you'll go to Twitter.
I bet, yeah.
Or only it won't be called Twitter.
I mean, he said in some note earlier this week, something like, this is the last email I'm sending from Twitter.com. Like that was I got to get rid of Twitter.com. Like
$44 billion
later. To get to X.com.
Just up in flames.
Could have built it for less.
Could have built it for a lot less.
A little less. Yeah, I would think a little less. So the thought was, there's a lot of, X is a very common letter, especially in the technology world.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Like it's a popular letter. We like to name things. Our default variable names are I, J, and X typically.
A lot of X's. A lot of X's, yes.
So I thought it'd be fun for us to talk about our favorite products and companies. Let's start with X.
Good, because I didn't actually want to talk about any actual X's.
No.
Just because some of them might listen to this program.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Fortunately, all of mine are in my trunk, so it's not a problem.
Excellent.
There's no radio back there.
You took that song Stand too seriously.
I did.
Wow.
I thought, wait, it wasn't a manual? It wasn't an instruction?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Oh, geez. It's so awkward. Which always amuses me when people talk about, like, they'll have their wedding and they play, what's the Police song? Every Step You Take. And I'm like,
sure. It's the stalking song.
About
yes,
stalking.
Exactly.
What are you doing?
Every breath you take, I'll be watching you.
Yeah, like that's not healthy.
Okay, you're a creep.
Totally. There's a great Death Cab song that people think, oh, it's a lovely love song. I'm like, one of the lines is how he sees himself in the reflection of the window when he walks by your house. I'm like, oh, it's literally, it's not that. I promise. It's a lovely song. It's an absolutely great song. X's. What are some of your favorite X's?
Like companies that are
companies
X's?
and products.
Well,
Let's talk about them.
For me, X Windows is the one that pops to mind first.
Literally, X Windows is the first thing that pops in your brain?
X Windows, yes.
What do you think X?
When I think X, yeah, because X Windows was like the first graphical user interface that most of us use on Unix systems.
Sure.
And it was great. It was great. If you look at it now, it's terrible because we've advanced. But at the time, we were thrilled to have it.
It's still kind of amazing that it works, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to admit, especially being able to run a remote process, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can still do that with X well.
You'll be able to do it with Wayland well, too, shortly.
But that's the first one that pops into your brain?
Always. I don't know why.
I feel like X-Files would be high on my list.
I never watched the show. I was never a big fan of the show.
I didn't see all of it, but I did. I mean, I was definitely deep in the Mulder and Scully crosshatch.
I know it had a huge fan base.
The Truth Is Out There? The Smoking Man? Remember
I don't know what that is, no. I remember the phrase, the truth is out there.
That was the thing they always said.
Yeah.
Or it was the tagline of the show. There was like the Smoking Man who was like the guy who you never know what side he was on. He was the dude that would show up and he'd always smoking a cigarette.
No, didn't watch it. What's the first X that pops to your mind?
Well, I think X-Files would be the first one. X-Wing is high on my list because who didn't want to fly X-Wing as a kid?
Oh, sure,
right?
sure.
Like you would have taken one of those.
Yeah.
More so than what was the Enterprise? Was the thing they flew on in Star Trek?
The Enterprise?
Yeah.
It was the
Enterprise?
The Enterprise? Is that what you mean?
What a stupid name. Like the Enterprise. I feel like this is the X-Wing is like the...
There was nothing really aerodynamic about the Enterprise.
No.
It was like a big disc and then whatever was propelling it, those two long things. It was like, how'd you get out of an atmosphere with that?
looked like the tail end of like Art Deco. They're just, it made no sense to me. So it was more
I
of an
love
X-Wing.
Art Deco. I have no problem with Art Deco. It's just the physics of
Not in
putting the
space.
Enterprise in space made no sense.
I don't feel like Art Deco goes into space well. There's a high coefficient of drag on most of those things. What other one X's come to mind? Xbox. That's a popular one.
Yeah.
I went to you didn't go with me. Did you go to the Xbox 360 launch event?
Oh, no.
It was actually really fun. It was in the middle of the Mojave Desert. It was like a 36-hour event.
I went to many Microsoft launches, and I will tell you this: as boring as they sound,
Sure.
they always managed to make them really fun. They were excellent.
It was
at that.
really well done.
Yeah.
It was really well done in the middle of the desert. So the Xbox, my favorite nickname for the Xbox, the new Xbox iteration called the Xbox One, people call them X-Bones, which I've always thought was
Why
cute.
X-Bones?
Because you take Xbox and One and use some concatenation.
Because Xbox One. Got it.
Xbox One. X-Bone.
Why are we on Xbox One?
Well, I think you were losing the number race because you had the Xbox, and then you had Xbox came out when the PS2 was out.
Yeah.
So the next Xbox they called the 360, so that they could have a 3 at the front.
Sure.
That was on par with the PS3. PlayStation went to the PS4, and then Xbox was like,
Let's go back to one.
well, what are you going to do? Well, what are you doing from 360? 720? What the fuck do you do next? So they were just like, oh yeah, you know what? Fuck you, Xbox One.
I never understand any of the numbering of their brands.
I think the intent of the One was that it was going to be your entertainment hub.
from Windows 8 to Windows 10.
No, we went from Windows.
Where's the mysterious Windows 9?
No, that's not true. We went from Windows 7 to Linux is what we did.
Well, I didn't even get that far, but
we
yes.
got the fuck off that real fast. I don't care what they number it. Just keep it the fuck off my desktop. That's all I care about. You can call it anything.
Theoretically, other people did not.
Software in a box.
Back to Twitter. So sorry I interrupted you.
Back to Twitter. Back to X's.
Back to X's,
What
yes.
other ones
Twitter
come
is
up to
now
you?
called X.
Oh, I know. I got a favorite one.
What do you got?
Those guys that you call that schedule an appointment between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m.
And the
on a
X-cable
Thursday?
people.
The X-cable people. Xfinity.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Terrible. Cabletown. I like it better as Cabletown. That's a K.
What's Cabletown? I don't know what that is.
Cabletown. That's what Tina Fey called it on 30 Rock when Comcast bought NBC. They're like, oh, Cabletown's taking over.
Got it.
What other ones? What other X's do you have?
Well, X-rays.
X-ray, of course. X-rays invented by whom?
Oh, we had this in our quiz
we did.
show one time.
We did. It was like the 1890s, 1850s,
1895, something like that.
The German physicist, I think. Yeah. Could you imagine being the guy inventing the X-ray? Like, if you're doing this,
Had to get cancer.
right? You have to be like, this can't be good. You have to be doing this going,
But
this.
he didn't know
Like
it.
when I was reading about Enrico Fermi, like they all sort of knew back then, they're like, this probably isn't good for us, but
Sure.
we're going to do this work anyway. And his whole team died of cancer. I've always wanted to buy one. Obviously, I'd never plug it in. I just want to own one. In the 50s, they had like the machines. You'd try on a shoe and you put your foot in the machine. It would show you an X-ray in real time.
You talked about this on the
It's so
on the
crazy
quiz
to me.
show, whatever episode that was. To measure to make sure your shoes
Make
fit.
sure your
They
shoe
would
fit.
X-ray your foot.
A live X-ray. No, like a continuous image. Just blasting X-rays out. My word. So that would have been fun.
Boy, we started out stupid.
Started?
Well,
what about the guys who invented the mouse? That's another one that comes to mind.
X-Mouse?
I'm surprised you don't know this.
I probably could think of it.
They also duplicate paper.
Xerox. Okay, sure.
Yeah, those are the guys that invented the mouse, I believe.
It's the X that sounds like a Z.
Xerox. Also xylophone. Do you remember a company called Zobni?
No.
Zobni is the word inbox backwards.
Oh, well, why would why would I want to know that?
They're like an Outlook plug-in company thing that was all the rage.
What
in
would
the late
they add?
2000s.
What would they add to Outlook that Outlook didn't already have?
I want to say it was like threading and like a bunch of shit we take for granted now. I think it showed you usage stats, things like that. It made Outlook less terrible. I think they sold to Yahoo for like 50 or 60 million bucks, and then Yahoo shut it down a year later.
That's what Yahoo does.
That's what Yahoo does
When they buy things.
Google
they spend billions of dollars on things and then shut them down.
Oh, Google X. That's another one.
That's
the
their
old moonshot.
the moonshot.
The old moonshot. Yeah. The dude who runs
it's still called X, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but it was called Moonshots.
Under Alphabet?
Well, yeah, an alphabet. It's got to be something.
Got to be a letter.
What else are you going to call it? They've got some cool stuff because Waymo came out of there. Google Glass came out of there. What else came out of that one? Oh, Project Loon. Remember Project Loon?
Sure.
That was one.
Is that dead? Is Project
yeah,
Loon
I think
over?
they killed it, which is a bummer.
I thought that was a really cool
It's a great idea. This
yeah.
is for our listeners who don't know Project Loon. This was like dirigibles, like little
giant
floating
balloons, not dirigible size. That was it was smaller than that, but it was like for places that don't have internet or their internet is out. And if you want to know why the internet can go out, stay tuned for the next segment. We're going to talk about that.
But they would tie like a Netgear router to the bottom and just float it up.
Float these balloons
with a really long cable.
That would give no cable at all. That would give these people internet connectivity. It was kind of great.
They took X when
although we didn't love it when China flew a balloon over us.
Oh, that was different.
Because that was them.
That was them.
It wasn't providing internet service.
Do you understand how this works?
I do know that if it has a benefit like that, it doesn't matter how creepy and spy it is. You kind of go with it. You're sort of like, yeah, it's fine. Sure, I'll put all my images on Facebook and show you who all my loved ones and friends are
Don't put that balloon over my house.
But don't, Exactly.
Don't put that balloon over my house.
Provided it provides me some sort of,
Sure.
affirmation or something, count me in.
Yeah,
You can have all
totally.
my information, all my privacy. Just give me a little bit of,
Do you have that exact same thought every time you're in like a public place, like an airport, and you see _free _Wi-Fi _ as an SSID, and I'm like, you're just stealing all my data.
I don't, because
Every time I see one of those networks, I'm just like, this has to be.
but your data is encrypted. You're going to wherever you're going to. You're going through an encrypted
something
pipe.
SSL.
I don't think so, because
They still do the wall of shame at DEF CON, where they sniff any plain text passwords going over the wire.
oh, absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
amazing how much software still connects that way. even in
I thought the
2023.
wall of shame was gone, because I think everybody pretty much can do a
Is
VPN
it gone now? Oh,
It was forever. It was a thing. I don't know, because I'm
they're still idiots. There have to
I'm
be.
a lot older than everyone at
true.
DEF CON now.
That is true. X-Acto is another one that comes to mind.
The knife company.
The knife company.
Those are great
They
knives.
make other shit. They still are great knives. We talked about Google.
Xanthan gum.
Xanthan gum's a really good one.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, of course.
Do they still put that in
I
food?
think they still use it in food. It's a binder, right?
And is it actually spelled with an X? Because I don't remember.
Well, yeah, it's got xanthan. It's spelled with a Z.
Okay.
The
It could be spelled with who knows what. Yeah.
Xanthan gum's a thing. You can buy that still.
As a thickener, right?
X Factor?
X Factor. You mentioned the TV show.
No, that was X Files.
Oh, you're right. What is X Factor?
X Factor's
It's the other TV show.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah.
That was-
I've seen that show.
I've actually never seen it.
Howie Mandel. I have no idea, but I believe that's Howie Mandel.
Oh, X10. That's a good one. I don't use it anymore. Do you remember
Boy,
X10?
a lot of people do.
Really?
Yeah.
I moved on to
It is-
Insteon, which is a superset of X10.
Yeah.
People are still using
I
X10.
loved X10. I had my whole office done up in X10, so that when I walked in, everything in the world happened and came
just
to life
happened.
beautifully.
Yeah.
It was really cool. X10 was great.
Insteon's way better.
By the way, I don't think you could spend more than you could with Caseta switches, which is what I've got
That's
everywhere.
Very true. The nice thing about the non-IP based
You
solutions,
just might as well shove $100 bills into your walls.
your Woodrow Wilsons.
Yeah.
Just you and SBF shoving Woodrow Wilsons into the wall. The nice thing about Insteon is you can have a very, very good local solution with no external connection needed.
But you can do that with, there's other forms of Matter compliant devices that will do that.
We'll see. What do you use as a hub?
I can use a Raspberry Pi
yeah,
as my hub.
But that's like, you're in nerdland still. You need something that's turnkey.
I don't. I can
No, I know
do.
you
I can
don't.
do Nerdland.
Yeah, but in
I
order for the-
specialize in Nerdland.
But if you want the thing to really persist, you got to get out. Nerdland is like 1% of the population buying the shit at best.
Oh no, sure. I agree with you. It's not for everyone.
And that's why you get all this stuff off Amazon. It's like, $20 for a switch, and you just plug it in, and it's sucking up some Wi-Fi.
Right. I have Wise
endpoint
switches
and-
in my yard that are literally turning lights
Yeah.
on and off, and they work beautifully.
I have
You say, "Oi, what information are they getting from me?"
Oh, no,
exactly?
I'm not worried about that. No, I'm not that worried about that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm worried about radios that are becoming tired and slowing shit down. I was early adopter.
I think
on all that.
you've got older equipment.
Yeah, but you're gonna have the same problem in 5 years. It's got to replace all the equipment.
No, I'll just buy new equipment.
Well, exactly. I don't want to buy new equipment. I want to put it in the fucking wall.
The
and leave it
Wise
forever.
stuff is so cheap that
Yeah.
I wouldn't blink to swap it out for something new.
Sure. Yeah, don't do the work.
What work?
Set it and forget it. And screws.
If it lasts me 5 years, I'm in the.
I mean, that's the reality. I'm the Insteon stuff is way, way, way more durable than that, which is lovely.
Yeah.
So it's almost as durable as a mechanical switch.
Oh, I'm sure, and it will
Which is
last
great.
forever because
Yeah.
the X Windows and the
X10.
the X10 would last forever too. I'm
Yeah,
sure I still have somewhere in a box somewhere working X10 switches.
You do. I bet they still do work. The other one I came across that I did not know of, but I think this is really cool, is Extra PC. Do you know this?
No,
This is super cool. You would love this. It's like a
this is all just things that start with the letter X.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the segment. Extra PC is a USB stick that you can put an image on, and you can use them on old hardware to run Linux and basically breathe life back into old
And
hardware.
that's called Extra PC.
Extra PC.
Why can't I just use any Linux stick?
I think this
and
gives
use a
you
live
like
image?
a nice like turnkey image that's tuned for the gear that's on it, I think.
That's not true.
I think
because it
that's what it
couldn't be
looked like.
tuned. It doesn't know what the gear is ahead
You
of
tell
time.
it. No, you tell it. You tell
Well,
it what
okay,
you're
but
putting
I
on
can
it.
put any live image on any Linux stick, and I can do the same thing.
Do they have all the drivers for all the old shit in it?
Of course, there's no. All the
Really?
drivers are in the kernel. You know how Linux works?
Yeah, sure. Upside down.
It's fantastic. The drivers are all
I
built
thought
into
they were
the kernel.
pulling a bunch of old shit out though. It's all in the live distro.
It's all in the live distro.
Like-
it all works.
like my SCSI
you know
controller
the stuff
from
that
25
does,
years
stuff
ago.
that doesn't work on Linux.
New stuff.
The stuff that came out yesterday.
Sure.
Because then they don't have
Sure.
the version of it hacked yet. Give them 5 minutes, they'll have it.
They'll hack
but
it in.
but that's where you run into trouble. I never run into trouble with old stuff. Well, if you go far enough
I'd rather
back,
have to reinstall the drivers and then restart.
you don't have to
fucking
do
Windows.
that on
I know.
Linux ever.
I know. So much better.
Beautiful thing.
It's a better world.
Okay, so a lot of stuff that starts with X.
Yep. And next week we'll do some other letters. This is all Elon's fault. That's really what I think.
Because he renamed
the company in like a Saturday night binger. All right, up next, Jeff's going to talk about the submarine cables that help the world communicate.
It's the garden hose that keeps the internet alive. Happy anniversary.
For the cable?
For the cable, the transatlantic cable laid across the Pacific Ocean to connect Europe and North America. It's the anniversary. After 12 hard years, it was completed 157 years ago today, July 27th in 1866. The first transatlantic telegraph cable became operational on the 16th of August, 1858.
Stop. That's what you would say at the end. You would say stop.
That would take your whole word. It could do like one word a minute.
There's a lot of overhead.
So if you're going
to,
if you're going to say stop, that's a lot of
Send
overhead.
help, stop. You need better break words. Stop.
Shorter break word.
Totally.
It worked for 3 months before it failed.
What happened?
I don't know. In this particular case,
somebody unplugged the other end.
Well, the ocean, first of all, is moving constantly. You've got water and earthquakes, and you've got lava and all sorts of. The ocean does a lot of things.
400 million year old sharks.
Sharks like electricity. Exactly. We're going to talk about that in a second. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of reasons why this could have failed. In those days, they weren't great at insulating the wire. They were putting like the juice from a tree as an insulation. So of course, as soon as it rubs on a rock for a few minutes, you now have an uninsulated wire, and now that's not going to work.
Meanwhile, that tree juice got down there, and the shark's like, I'm older than you. I don't need your shitty ass young 90 million year old
sharks
tree
younger
juice.
They actually had a very sad story of a whale. One of the marine cables, a whale was trying to scrape barnacles off of its belly
on the
cable and managed to get its tail caught up.
Oh no!
In the end, and he drowned.
Tail whale.
And when they tried to repair the cable, they had to pull it up, and when they pulled it up, they found a dead whale.
Wow,
that's not a happy story.
No. Can you imagine trying to explain that to your customer?
You got a
Why
whale?
isn't my fucking cable? Well, there's a whale. They're like, fuck you. There's no whale in it.
Well, there
just
was.
Get back to work. And
actually, a number of whales have died on these cables. We're much better at it now.
Okay.
We literally, as they are laid now, they dig a trench simultaneously on parts of the ocean until you get too deep. But they dig a trench and the cable goes into the trench. But the kind of cool thing is when you have to cross over someone else's cable, the trench digger knows to pull up and not dig the trench there. And so your cable comes up and over and then back into the trench as it starts again.
So you could say the trench digger's pull-out game is clutch.
I'm not going to say that.
Okay, well, you could. Just saying.
Okay.
If this was TikTok, you could say it.
In 1896, there were 30 cable-laying ships in the world, 24 of which were owned by British companies. So this was a British-dominated industry. High voltages were used to attempt to overcome the electrical resistance of the length of the cables. Those early cables were limited by distortion, and in some cases, the really speedy ones got up to 10 to 12 words per minute.
That's crazy. That's amazing how far we've come, first of all. I also love when hey, we put this cable across the ocean. There's a lot of resistance on it. They're like, just fucking up the voltage.
Well, that's what they did.
120,000
What else
volts.
could you do? Sure. It's not much different today. Britain's very first action after declaring war on Germany in World War I was to have the cable ship Alert cut the 5 cables linking Germany with France, Spain, and Azores, and through them, North America. And thereafter, the only way Germany could communicate was by wireless, and that meant that Room 40, the crypto-analysis section of the British Admiralty during the First World War, could listen in.
So that's kind of crazy. How did everybody get all their tweets back then? The cable got cut. Couldn't even stream Netflix?
That is all happening over those cables. There are 400 plus cables, and in about a blink of an eye, we're going to be at 500 plus because they're going in fast.
That's crazy.
TAT-1, TAT-1, Transatlantic 1, was the first transatlantic telephone cable system. Between 1955 and 1956, cable was laid between Gallanche Bay near Oban, Scotland, and Clarenville, Newfoundland, and Labrador. It was inaugurated on September 25th, 1956, initially carrying 36 simultaneous telephone calls.
36 phone
calls.
I bet they sounded terrible, too.
Well, it didn't matter. There weren't many of them, so you were sharing the line. In 1980, fiber optic cables were developed. Most submarine cables are made of fiber optic cables that can carry very large quantities of data. They carry the vast majority of international data traffic, including voice, video, and internet traffic. I mean, by comparison to satellites, which you're hearing about low orbiting satellites, and everybody's putting up low orbiting satellites. How cool is that? Those low orbiting satellites, they don't come close to carrying as much data.
Of course.
They call it submarine. These submarine cables are carrying 99% of your international traffic.
I'm surprised it's not, or 5 nines.
The first transatlantic telephone cable to use optical fiber was TAT-8, which went operational in 1988. It connected the United States and the United Kingdom, obviously an important route. A fiber optic cable comprises multiple pairs of fibers. Each pair has 1 fiber in each direction. TAT-8 had 2 operational pairs and 1 backup pair.
Oh, wow. That's crazy that they pulled a cable that literally had 2 operational pairs and a backup pair.
And it looks like a fishing line. It's the thickness of a human hair. It's very, very thin. The amazing thing is that you have repeaters on the line.
Yeah.
You can only go a couple hundred miles with these things. And I don't think they try to go a couple hundred miles, but theoretically you could go a couple hundred miles. In reality, I think they end up going between 30 and 60 miles before they put in a repeater.
That's nuts.
Today's new cables use 16 pairs of fibers, but a new cable the NTT is building between the U.S. and Japan employs deploys 20 fiber pairs to reach 350 gigabits per second. Another Japanese tech giant, NEC, is using 24 fiber pairs to reach speeds on its transatlantic cable up to half a petabyte per second.
Yeah, 500 terabits per second.
The big bulge in the cable every 30 to 60 miles is called a repeater. It boosts the signal strength. Repeaters require power, though, and that's where another part of the cable construction comes into play. Outside of the fiber optic strands, a copper layer carries electricity up to 18,000 volts.
Wow.
That's enough power to power the repeaters all the way across the Pacific Ocean from just one end of the cable, although power typically comes from both ends for better reliability.
Don't short that.
That's why sharks sense voltage. Yeah, you'd think anybody could sense that much.
Volts.
Yeah. There's no sensitivity in sensing 18,000 volts.
Why is my leg vibrating and I'm peeing all of a sudden?
Exactly. Microsoft is also betting on a fundamental improvement to fiber optics themselves. In December, it acquired a company called Luminosity that develops hollow fibers with a tiny central tube of air. The speed of light in air is 47% faster than it is in glass. The reduction to the communication delay is known as the latency. That's key to the performance of the network.
Yeah.
Less latency is better.
That's super cool.
Most cables in the 20th century crossed the Atlantic Ocean to connect the United States and Europe. However, capacity in the Pacific Ocean was much expanded in the 1990s. Between 1998 and 2003, approximately 70% of the undersea fiber optic cable was laid in the Pacific due to the emerging significance of Asian markets in the global economy.
Where the people are.
Antarctica is the only continent not yet reached by submarine telecommunications cable. Phone, video, and email traffic must be relayed to the rest of the world via satellite links that have limited availability and capacity. And do you know why that is?
Because they're on the bottom of the pole.
Because you got to make some sort of fiber optic that can withstand the freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing.
That's
so that'll be a nifty physics trick if they solve that.
Sure.
In 2023, there were over 400 submarine communications cables, as I said, in operation around the world. Currently, 99% of the data traffic that is crossing the oceans is carried by undersea cables, and they're protected from damage from a variety of factors, including steel armor and polyethylene sheathing.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'd love to see more of this cable construction. Like, it seems to me, only putting 24 pair in a cable seems like...
Why can't you put more?
Why can't you put more? But then I wonder, like
every one of those fibers has to have a repeater.
And you also end up with probably a spool size problem. Like, you want that cable to be pretty small. If it's pretty thick,
you can do about 1,800 miles on a single ship.
Okay,
that's about what they get.
That's incredible.
Currently,
that's a lot of miles.
Now, how often do cables break? How often do they get cut? About every 3 days.
I was going to say daily.
It happens a lot. The primary culprits accounting for about 85% of the cuts are fishing equipment and anchors. Ships often will anchor themselves to ride out storms, but the storms push the ships and they drag the anchors. Repairs take an average of 2 weeks.
That's impressive.
In 2012, Hurricane Sandy, do you remember Hurricane Sandy?
I do.
Cut 11 of the 12 high-capacity cables that connect the U.S. and Europe.
That's a lot.
That really slows down traffic because most of them, when they put these cables in, instantaneously, as soon as they're up and running, they're running at capacity.
Yeah.
They can't put the cable in fast enough.
Sure.
The cables are constantly being upgraded, and they're becoming more and more capable of carrying data. As a result, we can expect to see more data being carried by submarine cables in the future. Telegeography, which tracks submarine cables, projects $10 billion will be spent on new submarine cables from 2023 to 2025 around the world.
A lot of cables.
On average, the lifespan of submarine cable is 25 years.
That's longer than I would think for such an environment. I mean, assuming some dipshit doesn't drag his anchor across it.
Again, it's the average.
Yeah.
By the way, it's kind of cool when he does drag his anchor and breaks the cable.
Yeah.
When they go to repair it, they have to fish out half of it, and then they have to fish out the other half. So they fish out half and they tie it to a buoy.
Sure.
And then they go find the other half, bring it up, and they put the piece of connecting cable in it. When they lay it back down, they lay it back down in a V so that it doesn't move where the break is.
Yeah, I got it. So they're adding length to it.
Yeah.
And got it. I wondered how they do that because you kind of, I guess if you pull the end up, you are lifting it up, whatever, a couple thousand feet.
Which is amazing because when they were doing early cables like that, when they would lift them up, they would snap because they couldn't carry the weight of the rest of the cable. Yeah. Multicore fiber is a relatively new type of optical fiber that contains multiple cores within a single strand of fiber. This allows for more data to be transmitted over the same fiber, which can increase capacity of submarine cables and other fiber optic networks.
Yeah, that's great.
The longest submarine cable in the world is 28,000 miles long. It's the To Africa cable, and it has 24 fiber optic strands. That gives it a capacity of 200 terabits per second, which is enough to carry the equivalent of 40 million high-definition video streams.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of people. A lot of people watching your movie.
Totally.
Flag Atlantic, installed in 1997, connects the United States and Europe. It was the first fiber optic submarine cable to use 10 gigabit technology.
Which is nuts because
that's slow compared to.
Yeah,
that was dated a long
I can
time
put
ago.
it in my house now.
Pretty close. Yeah.
No, like legit 10 gigabit.
You have a 10
ports.
gigabit switch.
I could. No,
yeah. No, of course you could.
I don't need. I bond 2 1 gigabit links, and it's fast enough for anything I'm doing.
Right. It appears instantaneous. What more do you need? Reinstalled in 2017, a Facebook-Microsoft partnership connects the United States and Spain. It is the first fiber optic submarine cable to use 160 terabit technology, which is 16 million times faster than the average home internet connection.
Yeah, it's a big pipe.
The most recent submarine cable is the Jupiter cable, which was completed in 2020. It connects Hong Kong to the Americas. It has a capacity of 160 terabits per second. The cost of the Jupiter cable was approximately $300 million and counts Amazon as one of its owners. Now, I didn't realize this. These cables cost an average of $200 to $300 million, and they carry this vast amount of data, but that seems fairly cost effective.
Sure.
I mean, you and I could put in a cable if we want. Shall we pull our money and put in a cable?
Swimming.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, we'll connect across the Great Salt Sea.
Who should we connect to?
The other side of Great Salt Lake.
You want to just do it across Utah?
Yeah.
You know, when they started out, they started out with undersea cables. They started with not even the sea. They started with rivers. They would traverse rivers with the cables. Requires a lot less voltage.
Yeah, it also sounds even harder though because you've got water moving.
Well, you got water moving in the ocean too.
Yeah,
with tides and things, you're constantly, that cable was rubbing against rock and things that was wearing it out. Google owns or is invested in 22 submarine cables around the world, including Unity, which connects California to Japan. Google is also the owner of Equano, which connects Europe and Africa and has a capacity of 200 terabytes. In August 2021, Google and Facebook announced that they would develop a subsea cable system dubbed Apricot for 2024 in order to improve internet connectivity and serve the growing demand for broadband across 5G wireless connectivity across Asia Pacific, including Japan, Singapore, Taiwan, Guam, Philippines, and Indonesia.
Everybody wants the internet, turns out.
But 5G is super low latency, so there's some magic happening there.
The good news is light moves pretty quick.
Less quick through glass than it does through air.
I saw that, which is fascinating. And I mean, it's a more dense material, so I'm not surprised it's slower. I'm surprised they can get it to bend. I'm curious how that works. If you've got air in the middle of the fiber optic cable, how do you get it to bend? Because that's the benefit of fiber optics as we normally know them.
I think you make the sheathing so it can't bend beyond a certain number of degrees.
But how do you get the light to bend in the air? That's what I don't.
Great question. I have no idea.
Got to be like some sort of skin effect with the fiber optic or something. I don't know.
In 2009, a shark bit a cable off the coast of Australia, which caused a brief interruption in internet service in the region. In 2014, a study by the International Cable Protection Committee found that shark bites were the second leading cause of damage to submarine cables. The study found that sharks were responsible for about 10% of all cable cuts.
That's a lot of cuts.
It's that voltage that's in there. Boy, when the shark actually gets through to the 18,000 volts, do you think he regrets that he was doing that?
Yeah.
It smells a lot like you have barbecued fish at that point.
I should have eaten a seal at that point, I think is what he says.
In 2017, a submarine cable was cut by a ship's anchor, causing widespread outages in the Middle East.
Oops.
Submarine cables are a target for terrorists and criminals. In 2015, a group of hackers targeted the See Me We 4 cable, causing widespread internet outages in Southeast Asia.
I wouldn't just go there with some bolt cutters and chop it, though.
Well, you couldn't.
With 18,000 volts, that sounds bad.
Yeah, well, that's not only is that going to be a problem, but also they use a different cable as they come to the land.
Sure.
As you get into shallower waters, they use a much bigger, thicker cable. That's right. It's very, very hard to get through.
I'm fascinated how they repair these things, though. Like, do they bring them all up?
Yeah.
To repair them?
Yeah, they bring them up, they patch them, they make them longer, and then they put them down in a special pattern.
How do they find the loose end?
Well, you dive in, you probably wear a mask so you can see, and then you look around.
Or just an ROV, you just drive an ROV around and just find it. I mean, but there usually could be transmitters.
Some sort of metal detector or something that's, it's...
Sure, not fiber optic.
There's some way to connect to figure out where it is.
I wonder if you go back, it would make sense if you
if
you have the transponders in the relay, the boosters, right?
Sure.
And then you go find one of those, and then you have two ends, you find the other end, and just pull it up, and okay.
It seems like if they're able to repair them in 2 weeks, that they've gotten this down to a pretty, we've been doing this solid since the 1800s, mid 1800s, that we've gotten much better at it. But it's pretty remarkable, and it's not slowing down. We're going to be adding more and more of these cables because they're so cost effective.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is neat.
All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
I did. I think this is totally out of character for me. There's a YouTube video of, screw up his name, Joseph Castaneer Alonso playing I'm a Barbie Girl. Remember the song?
No.
He's playing I'm a Barbie Girl, but in the style of 6 different classical composers. And it's really fun. He just
I don't know
posted it.
this song. What is the song?
Oh, I'm not going to sing it.
Is
It's-
it from a commercial or something?
No,
Something
no.
Barbie
It was
related?
like a I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, really shitty pop song. It's got like this over synth, like high voice. It says I'm a Barbie girl.
An homage to the Barbie doll?
Yes, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I mean, it's one of those like catchy songs that gets in your head, but it's just absolutely terrible. And then you hear him playing on the piano and these 6 different
As
classical
composers,
Yeah,
sure.
and you're like, whoa, that's really cool.
Very clever.
I just thought it was fun. How about you?
The Tour de France ended Sunday, and the Danish rider who won last year won again. So in honor of the race, my recommendation is not going to be new, but I just rewatched it. It's the documentary Lance.
Oh, yeah, Lance. I haven't seen that yet.
It's an incredible ESPN 30 for 30 documentary about 7-time Tour de France winner Lance Armstrong, his cheating scandal, his treatment of others, and especially how he treated his accusers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but he was quite nasty to those who accused him.
For doing the things that he did?
Or doing exactly what they said he was doing, precisely. He was barred from cycling for life and stripped of his titles. He says that a $100,000 investment in Uber, when the company was worth $3.7 million, saved his family from financial ruin after he paid millions in lawsuits following his doping scandal. I have no idea if that's true or not, but I just thought that was an interesting aside. Check out Lance on ESPN+.
Oh, that sounds great. I'll check that out.
That's the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense. A truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Stu Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, our favorite Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Podcast Index Org. Special thanks to our floor director, Venkat Mutiala.
Thanks, Roy. We'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us. I always do that one, like don't come into my house, like get off my lawn.